Hello, and welcome to the Unbalanced Pedestal podcast. My name is Tina Marie, and I will be your host tonight. Obviously, because
It's my podcast, right?
yes, we're going to start it off that way. So, today's episode is brought to you by moi. No, seriously. Today's episode, we're going to be a little
humorous on this podcast. Just so you know, I know it's going to take you some time to get used to me, but I like to crack jokes, keep it light, throw a little bit of serious in there. But this is who I am. This is why I started a podcast. This is why you're rocking with me.
If you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, you will know that I like to just show up and show out when I need to. And so I like to express myself in various ways. Obviously there's a time to be serious when that that mode, is required. But the best thing in life is just to laugh and to just enjoy life as much as you can. And that is, why I'm here. So today's episode, we're going to continue to talk about generational curses. And within this space, we're going to touch on communication. In a previous episode, I talked about communication as not communicating what should be done. And when I say this, I'll say from my experience of, an African-American family household, various households, you have your immediate family with your parental figures, whether it's single parent or independent parent, whether you're a father, a mother, whether it's you're raised by your grandparents or parent, your aunt, uncle, whatever that family dynamic means for you. And this can be even if you grew up in someone that you're not related to, if you're in, the foster system. And so this is across the board, okay? And so you take what you listen to and whatever resonates for you in this episode, how you grew up, but think about how the communication dynamics within that household, how you grew up, how were the things that were said to you, how did they help you or hurt you in your life? So for me, I'll use me as an example. For me, I didn't know anything about life, not from the time I'll say I can go back to the age of 5. That's how far my memory goes back without any, hypnosis. But my memory can go back to the age of 5. And it's just the communication, just looking back as a grown ass adult with, children in college, lived life, had some
Good times. But we're gonna say that for another story. So you know.
We're gonna say that for another episode. But just to say that, just looking back out at how the communication within my family was, there was no communication. There was no such thing as you should do this because it will benefit you. You should do this because it will help in your career. Or if you're confused about what you should do when you grow up, or if, the person that you may meet, uh, your significant other, your future significant other, what you should look out for. All of these little things that may not seem relevant to a child or a teenager or a young adult, uh, it is quite relevant. These are the conversations that we should be having. We should be having these conversations with young adults in our family. And because I grew up, at least one of my parental figures grew up naive, that also translated over to me. And so, with that being said, I carried that habit, that trait over into my, of course, adulthood, and not me knowing that what I'm doing is correct. A lot of that knowledge that happened to this adult in my life could have been shared so I can make informed decisions. And because they were too ashamed to admit that what they were feeling or going through was something that you keep hush hush. And this is, we're, as of this recording, this is as of November 2021. So the adults that I'm talking about, their age groups are, 70s, 80s. And I'm now finding out about their experiences as a child, as a young adult. And these are things that I feel that is so vital, not just for myself, but it is so vital in everyone else's life. To If everyone had this knowledge and it was shared, and again, going back to the generational curses, right? So if this knowledge was shared with me or with someone else in my family, it would help them navigate life better. And because we don't communicate within certain families, because of the shame, the embarrassment that may come about, keeping things under the table, you know, there's families out there that have much worse that I've heard. It's just like the stories are unbelievable, but it's all because they want to have this picture perfect life, what's portrayed on TV, which is not actually true. It's not actually true. This picture perfect life of, the picket fence and the dog and all of these things, the things that I grew up on, like dating myself here, like Leave It to Beaver and the Brady Bunch and all these other movies, the Cosby Show. It's all a fantasy. And because everyone wants to live up to this ideal picture perfect family, that no one wants to air anyone's dirty laundry. And yes, I do get, the embarrassment and all. I was there, but I'm at a point in my life where, even in my own healing process, in the beginning, yes, it was tough for me to even admit the things I was going through and feeling. But I realized that, it's been 6 years in my recovery. So like an addict, but I mean, I'm an addict of people pleasing, right? I'm a recovered people pleaser. So, I went to my people pleasing anonymous meetings, which I don't know if they even have, or maybe I should start one. But anyway, see, I'm getting off the topic here. So it's that I took my experiences, my feelings, my thoughts, and I packaged it and I delivered it to my children. So my children were there. My children were there when I had my breakdown. My children were there where they saw me at my lowest point in my life, but they also were there when I was able to pick myself back up. And that was through a lot of personal development, a lot of listening to a lot of motivational speeches. And this is before even investing in coaches, like a lot of books and audio and anything you could think of. This is what I was doing for the past 6 years. And I shared with them a lot of my frustrations, a lot of conversations that were happening in the real world, like real time. It's like, did you know what so-and-so said to me? And, clutch my pearls, all of these things. But I do this so they are better equipped and better prepared in their life, especially if they're in college. Because again, I'm a recovered people pleaser. And so my children are in college. What does that mean? They're adults who have learned traits from their mom. And so it is my duty to course correct. Don't do this because I did it and these are the consequences. Stop what you're doing. So this is my mission, not only with my children to break this curse, it stops with me, but to let other people know they need to also course correct with people in their family, the younger generation. And this is why I'm on this mission. This is the reason why this podcast was born, to stop what we're doing to help those who are coming after us, to continue to give them the information that they need to make better and informed decisions. And so while, my children are in college, they can, again, learn when they're being manipulated. They can learn how to use their time wisely. They can learn to be more confident in themselves. They got to a pretty darn good space where they're at. And they're very highly gifted. And this is not even, they've never been tested, but their grades have spoken for themselves for many years. They, graduated on top of the class, Victoria, all these things. So, honors, all of that. So
I know my kids are gifted, okay? They don't need to be tested.
but all that to say, people will see their gifts, their talents, and will try to exploit them. So I want to make sure that, yes, take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way, but be discerning. Don't be naive. I was naive. My parental figures were naive. So it goes back. There's a history of that going back. And, just being totally submissive and just taking everything in and just be like, okay, sure. No, we're not doing that no more. No mas, okay? So communicating what the world is doing in real time. Again, they are in school, so they may not see it as much in school, but at least when they, either decide to work for themselves as an entrepreneur, or if they decide to work a 9 to 5 at a big tech company, either way, they need to know how to navigate these conversations with other people. And they need to see from 10 miles away that someone is coming for them, that they do not mean well. And so by me communicating all of these experiences and giving them advice, and experiences will help them to make better informed decisions for themselves. And this is a great way to, not just for me, but again, for you to have these difficult conversations. You start off small, share something, a piece of your day, start with that. And, it will lead up to just open communication. And again, I got another one for you. My daughter, the other day, she was talking to her friends, and I'll say what a year ago, even a year ago, that I've been mending, from that time, I've been mending our relationship, because as your child gets older, they become their own person. They have their own thoughts and opinions, and you can't tell them nothing, right? So, what do you do? I mean, I always done it, but what do you do in that situation as a parent, as an independent parent? You treat them like an adult. You talk to them like an adult, right? Because that's where they're going. You're not going to dismiss their feelings and pound your chest like I'm, the breadwinner of this household and you need to listen to me and whatever I say goes and you're under my roof. We ain't doing all that. So this conversation she was having with her friends, I was into the conversation and I'm like, what are you even talking about? Right? Because the door is open. And then she's like, close your ears. So she's telling me to close my ears. This is our relationship, you know. Uh close your ears, right? And I'm like, well, your door is open. Close your door. And one of her friends made a comment. She said, if I told my mother to close my ears, my head would have been across the room. So her response my daughter's response was, well, you don't have that kind of relationship like me, my mother has. And I was like, oh my God. I felt so touched. But yeah, that, just to have her even say and acknowledge that openly, that was a lot because I could never have said that about my own mother. Let's just be real. Uh Now having these conversations with my mother uh in my 40s now.
Now,
Exactly. I'm now having these conversations with my mother in my 40s. And I'm not at the point where I can say, shut your face to her because she'll get offended. So you see what I'm talking about? That we need to work on these generational curses at a younger age for those who are coming after us, because what was done to, again, the people before us, they have suffered a lot. They're going through their own trauma, continuing to go through their own trauma. And not only that, they are not healed. They are not healed. They are in, again, their 70s, their 80s, their 90s, and they have a lot of this guilt, a lot of the shame that they just refuse to talk about and will take it to the grave. I remember, one traumatic experience for me. I mean, among several others, which I'll definitely share on these episodes, upcoming episodes, because the more I realize, the more I share, the more I help people. And that is the goal. The more I share, the more I help. And it's not just the generation that's coming after me, but these are conversations that I'm having with people that's older than me. And they're like, and I help them. And this is not even, through my coaching services, paid clients. These are just regular conversations I'm having with people I'm just meeting in different spaces as I continue to work on my personal development and, be a part of masterminds and other groups. And it's just amazing how this a little bit I share with someone and they're like, oh my gosh, you just helped me. And it's just because I just shared, a little piece of my experience to help them get out of, again, situations that they have not have thought it was possible. And I would definitely say knowing how to communicate just what is going on with you, knowing how to communicate how your your experiences for that one moment, no matter how embarrassing you may think it is, would give someone an answer. And again, going back to my example, my children, they are young. They are not tied down to anyone. They are in the state of their life, or they are in the time of their life where they are still finding themselves out. And so it is my job, as always, to provide them with information that is useful. And whether they take that advice or experience or not, I know that I've shared it. And if they so happen to run into the same problem and they talk to me about it, because we're at a point where we can talk about pretty much a lot of things. Talking about, you know, my previous relationships, with the father and all of these things. It's very crucial because, again, I'm having these conversations at the age of 40. And if I'm having these conversations now with my children in their early adult uh, phase of their life, will help them out tremendously. It's like they get the warning signs before, anything that happens. They know how to, again, navigate those experiences when it does show up in their life. It's like, okay, I remember this. Let's I know these traits, I know these behaviors. Let me not approach this person. Let me go a different way, or choose a different path, whatever it is. But again, going back to communication and not letting things just be bottled up inside and take things to your grave, because again, the slightest piece of information can help someone. And this is why I implore you, I challenge you to just do the same. And again, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid just to share. And you'll see how much you can change a person's life by doing so. And once you do that, you actually will feel good. You will, I would like to say, do a good deed for the day. But those little deeds, those little seeds that you plant will also be, it will flourish, it will grow. So going back to my children, communicating what I've gone through, I see how they're pivoting, and I see the confidence growing, and I see how they look at themselves in the mirror and how they show up, because they know who they are. They are confident in making decisions for themselves, as well as partaking in other decisions as a group, the people that they're, the circles that they're in. So you know, it is something that I definitely would never have even imagined, because when I was in that space where I didn't know anything before I became aware of what's going on, it was tough. It was tough for me to navigate. And I was always, questioning and seeking answers and always wondering why. So now that I'm more wiser and I literally, as I am developing myself more and more, I'm investing more in coaches and programs. I can share even those experiences of what it's like to ask for help, communicating your help, communicating your needs. Because again, as I've mentioned before, I'm a recovered people pleaser. I used to be a people pleaser. People pleasers don't ask for help. They take on the world. They want to make sure that they're the only person who can get it done. And no one else can do it but them. So they would give up their time, their energy, and just to make sure that they can get it done. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for them. It didn't work for me. And if you're a people pleaser, it's not gonna work for you. No matter how much you want to believe that it's beneficial for you, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be frustrated and angry. And I can tell you about some anger. I can definitely tell you about some anger. But anyway, just having that communication of asking for help. And so that's what they are doing. They are asking for help, which they never did before. They are asking more questions. They are being curious. And so, because I've been doing that for myself, and so I am their example, their role model of how that should be done. And again, everyone is going to do things their own way. And, I give them time, get them their space to breathe. And of course, let them be themselves. But at the same time, it's always going to be my job to give that advice, based on what they're going through. And again, for them to make those sound decisions for themselves, because they are adults. They're not 5 years old. So they are adults and they have options of how to navigate their own situations. And it's all through the form of communication, a generational curse that needs to be broken. We need to communicate more to our youth. We need to communicate more to our family members. Even though the ones that are adults and who just don't want to listen to you, you need to communicate that you're not you need to communicate that you're not that person anymore. That whatever you used to do in the past, that's not you. And if they have a problem with that, that is not you, that's a them problem. So this communicating in general is up there with boundaries. I mean, communication is a whole nother level outside of this personal family. And that's again another conversation. Communication within the workplace, the professional, which I've seen so many different cultures that I interact with every day, and how it all comes down to the same thing. They don't know how to communicate amongst each other. And it's fascinating that this is something that's not really taught in school. Everyone just kind of just maybe that they don't not comfortable of communicating. I don't know what it is. I have to find a common denominator. It could be, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not really sure. I have not did the research, but it could be, some cultures, they just are, that communication is not welcome. Respect your elders. You don't talk out of place. In the Western culture, uh, little girls should be seen and not heard. All of those things that we have indoctrinated from the time we were small is just it follows us through adulthood. And that's one thing that definitely needs to be expressed more is communication, how someone feels and how they think and what they want to do in life. It's we've been muzzled for so long, and we're just so believed and ingrained that this is okay. But then when something goes wrong, everyone's pointing fingers. It's like, no, because you did not communicate that you needed help. You did not communicate that you see there was a problem. And because there's always this fear of backlash. And again, this all stems from societal norms, family norms, so many things that, again, society has placed on us. And this is all across the world. And granted, yes, there are some cultures that just say whatever is on their mind and which is great. But for most people that I've encountered, again, on a daily basis, that they don't know how to do that because they're afraid of hurting someone's feelings. They are afraid that, the information may not be received well. And it's just, just using your, emotional intelligence of when to say something, how to say the cadence, and all of these things, may seem a lot to somebody, but once you know how to master that and you just really embrace and be confident in doing that, you'll get so much done in a short amount of time when you learn how to communicate effectively. But just going back to just rolling it back and resetting, the topic of this episode of just communicating within your family dynamics, your household, your immediate family, of, what should be done based on your experiences. I would say should be done, but just communicating the things that you have gone through in order for that next generation that comes, and generations to come, leaving that legacy, leaving that wonderful gift of breaking that curse, because this is what it's all about, breaking that generational curse of communication. And again, my name is Tina Marie, and I am the host of the Unbalanced Pedestal podcast. And I thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Please also share this with someone that you know that has communication issues within their own family. And, even if it's maybe not within their family, if it's in, in their workplace setting, or they always, come to you and say, I don't know how to communicate with with anyone in their lives. And it's going to be in so many different ways and with different people. But just let them know that if they work on the communication, it's a little bit every day with that one person that they are having these issues with, that it will get better. It will get better because I've been doing it and I've seen the results in my own children, and how they used to respond to me until how they now respond to me. And it's all because that I am just treating them like an adult. I'm sharing who I am as an adult, as a person, they see me as a human being and not just a parental figure. They can relate to me. And this is something that anyone can do. Anyone can do and have that relationship. The same relationships that you see that the actors portray in movies and sitcoms, you can also have that in your own life. They can have that. Your friends, your family, whoever it is that you're thinking of, they're having these communication issues with their children, they can have that. And that is something, again, that is my goal of this podcast, to reach as many people that I can, to even touch one person, and just to let them know that they have support, they have someone that understands what they've been through, and that it's going to be okay. It just takes patience and practice into to achieving what it is that you want in life, especially when it comes to communication. And again, I thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I look forward to uh, just providing you with more information, providing you with more tips and advice, and how you can break these generational curses, and just making them all stop with you, to leave that legacy for future generations to come. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.